Hello and welcome back to Basement Banter on Yup Sports Radio. I'm Jake Urich and I'm here with Evan Anderson and Jack Shea. And we're here today on the eve of Super Bowl weekend to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl, but to talk a lot about some other things too. And so we're going to get to our Super Bowl predictions later, but we're going to start with some college basketball. We're kind of in mid-season here, and we're getting towards the end where it's starting to wind down. Tournament seeds are starting to be kind of generally figured out. Some teams are in, some teams are out, and some teams are starting to gel. And so gelling is actually a big part of the tournament. You got to be ready to play and to be the last team of the 68 now?
68.
68 teams standing. So, guys, what do you think about the NCAA tournament format?
Does someone with a stronger opinion want to go first?
Jack, why don't you start us off?
I love, to quote the P90X guy, I love it. Or no, I hate it, but I love it.
Tony Horton himself.
Yeah, because it's so fun to watch, and especially when you don't have a team really invested, like your team goes out in the first round or something. I just think it's really fun to watch. It's just a great event. Great to go to the sports bar all day and watch an entire round. It's a lot of fun, but I don't think it does a good job of crowning a true champion. I think it really marginalizes the regular season, and I think at certain times, I don't think it ever really does a true job of picking a champion. The tournament is just too big.
Well, I kind of also agree with Jack. I mean, this may sound blasphemous to the average sports fan, but the tournament just ends up not really living up to it for me for most of the time. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm a loyal fan, and when my team goes out in the first or second round, it kind of just spoils the rest of the tournament for me. Like, I want my team to win, and all those dramatic buzzer beaters and underdog stories are just not as good when your team lost. Like, I don't know how I feel about it. It's just that, like, I think it's almost better sometimes when your team's not in the tournament.
I agree, totally. First of all, if my team doesn't have a shot, I just assume they go to the NIT and play meaningless games so I can fully enjoy the tournament. That said, if I were a player on a prominent team, the tournament format might bother me. Since I'm going to be clutching a bracket and a highlighter in my grubby hands and rooting against any team worth anything, I like it fine. I think it's fantastic. It's, for me, the most entertaining postseason format of any of the major American sports, college or pro.
Certainly.
And I think that is worth more, at least to me, than crowning a true champion.
The entertainment value.
The entertainment value. I'm a fan.
It comes down to the fact that the entertainment value is worth more money to the NCAA than what it would take to crown a true champion. So that's why it turned.
What's your definition of a true champion?
Define a true champion, have a tournament of 8 teams. It sounds small to you, but 8 teams who have clearly defined themselves to be the best. The regular season would be a lot more important.
Well, yeah, but I mean, part of the problem with that is that you can play 8. Like, you can have a bracket of 8 and play that out in 3 days. That's not good for the finality of college basketball, nor is it good for making money or for college basketball in general.
Well,
like,
I contest that half the time the team that's the best team at the end of the year isn't even in the top 8 anyway. I mean, a lot of the time it's about when you peak. And if you think of a team like a Connecticut when they won,
9th in the Big East.
Yeah, they're 9th in the Big East. But do you think at the end of the season
that
they were the best?
Marginalizes the regular season. They were, at the end of the season they were the best. But
you can't argue that.
You can't argue.
But basically it means that what they did in the regular season did not in any way stop them from reaching the national championship.
Well, you're right. It didn't stop them
because they were 9th in the Big East. It's absurd.
Jack does have that run is incredible, and we're not going to hold that run against them. But what I'm saying is that down the road, no one remembers that they had a fairly average season.
Exactly. So basically, it doesn't really matter how you do in the regular season. Duke, North Carolina, like who gives a rip about that?
A rip, yes, of course, a rip.
I mean, I do. I like that game, but when it comes down to championships, it doesn't matter.
That Connecticut team won 5 games in 5 days. New York to win the Big East championship. They went on that historic national championship run. They had Kemba Walker. He was the best player in the country that year. To me, that's the crowning of a true champion.
I mean, that is fine.
Yes, it marginalizes the regular season, but really the regular season in basketball is about coming together anyway.
I don't like that.
Well, I mean, you can't say.
I like that, but I think that
but-
what you do in the regular season should have more bearing on your chances of winning.
Well, I mean, but you could go undefeated in the regular season like the Memphis team did a few years ago, and then lose in the finals, and your season means a lot less than it did. We now remember Kansas as that.
Fine, finish out Kansas. That's
Well, I mean, when Mario
Close them
Chalmers
out.
hits a 3 at the last second, I mean,
Fine,
what are you
close
going to
them
do
out.
about it?
I'm fine with
Well,
that.
I
I mean, no, I'm not saying that I'm not fine with that. I'm okay with that ending. But what I'm saying is that Memphis team had an unbelievable season, and while they should be remembered as a great team, you kind of forget about them.
Yeah, and also, what if they made it to the finals, which is a good achievement. But what if they had gone out in like the second round, and just laid an egg, then it's all
then
for
the
nothing.
whole work
All
was done for nothing. And of course, I mean, they're from a smaller conference, so people would say, "Oh, they didn't have a tough schedule." But I mean, when it comes down to it, they had some very good players in that squad, and they've gone on to have success in the NBA. So it's not like they didn't have talent.
Chris Douglas Roberts has played in the NBA.
Derrick Rose.
Derrick Rose, obviously, but
I mean, come
You're
on,
not
your
gonna hang your hat.
name. We
you're
just
not
named
gonna
two.
hang your. You're not gonna hang
He's a
your
top
hat.
5 player in the NBA.
He's a top 5 player in the NBA, and you just hung your head on
maybe.
Kemba Walker, who's
Alright.
barely scoring points for the Charlotte Bobcats. I mean,
But that's not what it's about.
And
It's
they
not
don't have
about,
anyone.
it's not about pro success. It's really not. You look, if you're the best team
But
at the end of the
you're
college
strained.
basketball season, you're gonna win that tournament.
No.
And you don't think that
No, I don't
the
think that's
University of
necessarily
Connecticut
true.
was the best team at the end of that season? You don't think that Kansas was the best team at the end of that season? I'm not
No,
I'm not
no,
sure
I'm
that
just saying,
Crown's
like,
true champion.
I'm saying
But
that
the
when
entertainment
if you
value
have an
is
easy
worth so much more than
Yeah,
what
it's
you're
more.
posing.
It's more money
Yes.
wise, but it's not
But-
worth
Buck,
more.
what I'm saying is that-
in terms of helping the sport, the
Buck,
actual sport.
Buck, if you have an easy road to the finals, then when you get there, you're going to be more ready to play than some other team that had to play 3 good teams that they're playing at their best. There's no way to actually tell who's going to come to play in the tournament because teams are rising and falling at the end of the year. Half the 4 seeds are rising up during the end of the year, and half of them are dropping down from where they were. And if they're not playing well, then the road's easier for the 1 seed.
I would love to revisit where you said that crowning a true champion every year would be better for college basketball. I'd love you to offer one piece of evidence to that direction because I think the tournament format, the way it is, has been the best thing for college basketball.
I'm not saying
It's
that
made college basketball what it is. So
I think
would just love
I think
to hear
there's
the
inherent
argument.
value in having the best team win. I don't
For
think
the sport of basketball?
yes,
Yes.
for
that
for
team.
college basketball.
No, for the sport. I mean,
For the sport.
yeah, if you're
I think
defining
it
the
has inherent
sport
value.
of college basketball as is it more entertaining? Do more people watch? Then maybe not.
Just-
But in terms of if you're looking at the sport as a whole, you want the best team to win. You don't want flukes. You don't want guys to lay
It's
eggs.
tough to call it a fluke when a team like a Butler gets back multiple years in a row. And yes, their
No,
regular
okay,
season
yeah, but-
resume isn't the strongest, but it's really tough to call it a fluke. Some teams are cut out for a tournament format, some aren't. That's kind of a necessary. I'm losing the word here, so I'm going to take it in another direction. It's kind of comes with the territory.
But
I mean,
here's
it's
my
not-
point.
You're
I
not going
want
to have 7-game series like
So
the
you-
NBA.
No, I know exactly, and that's my point. What I was about to say was that I would rather have the team win that would win a 7-game series.
Yeah.
Garbage.
I would
It's
rather
not
No.
NBA
I'm not saying I don't like.
basketball.
No, I'm not saying I don't like the format. I'm just saying that at the end of the road, if that team would have won a 7-game series and they lose that first game, then I have a problem with that. If you look back at the 2000 finals when the Lakers were playing the 76ers, the 76ers won that first game and the Lakers went on to win the series in 5. They were clearly the better team, but I mean, one game, anything can happen. I just don't really like how that ends up deciding the fate and the history of the team down the road. When you look back, it's one game.
It's true.
It's
Also,
40 minutes of basketball.
the NBA, for all of its faults, does an incredibly excellent job of crowning a true champion.
And
There are no flukes in the NBA.
You have to take weight with that because he doesn't even like the NBA
I
at
don't
all.
like it.
He said a positive word about the NBA, and that's actually unheard of.
I'm
Jack
a
Shea.
big NBA fan, but to me, NCAA basketball is all about that one shining moment montage at the end of the season.
Okay.
It's all about the buzzer
Look,
beaters
it
and the
sounds to me-
Cinderella stories, and it's all about entertainment factor.
If it's
And
all
you're
about
not doing
entertainment
anything-
factor, then why don't you just want the Steelers to play the Cowboys every year for the Super Bowl? And
Or the
because they're
Packers,
They're the
the Pa-
two
yeah.
most cared about teams. So
The
why
Packers
It's
throw him in
because
that
there.
would have
not
the best
necessarily-
entertainment-
because
but it
they're
would
not-
have the
no,
best
it's not.
entertainment value.
First of all, that's a completely ridiculous argument that is in no way analogous because the teams you're rooting for in the NCAA tournament are not Dallas Cowboys. They're Butler Bulldogs.
But they would get the highest rating.
But they would get the
You
highest
cannot-
ratings, but it would be the
You
highest
could not argue that a
entertainment value.
Steelers,
It's not a
a
You're
Steelers
arguing
Cowboys.
I'm not
entertainment
talking
value.
about ratings. I'm talking about.
That's how you measure entertainment value.
I'm not. No,
How are you
not
measuring
necessarily.
it?
I'm talking about intriguing storylines. I'm talking about intriguing players. I'm talking
How
about
do you
guys
measure
that aren't. exposed. You remember guys like Ali Farokhnamesh from Northern Iowa taking down Kansas? That's what it's all about for me.
Yeah, but that's
don't
what it's
know
all
about-
about. But in the
That
next
is,
round,
fun,
I just don't
it's
care
fun,
about him. I don't
It's
care
fun
about
and
Ali
exciting, but
Farokhnamesh.
it doesn't do good for the sport. It does good for fans. It does good for the pocketbooks.
You know what?
It
You know what's
doesn't do
good?
for the
It's
sport.
It does
good
good for the
when Davidson
fans.
makes a run and Stephen Curry plays out of his mind. I think that's good for the sport. It's good for the player, and he did a great thing. But when no-name guys make some kind of run, I don't think it's good for the
Well,
sport.
how is that different from Kemba Walker making a run? How's that different?
No, it's not
from
different. I'm
anything?
not saying it's not bad. I'm just saying like when no-name guys make a run in the tournament, they make a name for themselves, and then they go on and have success at the next level. Yeah, that's pretty good. They're putting the team on his back.
I don't care about
It's
the
what
next
Larry
level.
Bird did
They're
against
separate
Magic
entities.
Johnson.
They're
I
separate
agree
entities.
with Buck on that. They're
What?
separate
I
entities.
could care less about what they do at the next level. They're
No, I'm
separate
not talking-
entities entirely.
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying that when I look back, I want to remember those guys, and so Kemba Walker's incredible run means something to me. But if no-name guys do something like in the first or second round, I just don't care about that.
Maybe the difference between me and you is I remember those guys. I remember Mickey McConnell from St. Mary's. I remember
I
guys.
remember him.
Yeah, I mean,
See, so what do you? I don't.
No,
understand
I'm
what
not saying that I don't
Look
remember
at
those
college
guys.
basketball. There's a one and done culture. College basketball is not as high quality as it was.
Yeah, that's
5,
what I'm
10 years
saying.
ago.
It's
And
not.
and what you're asking is for those teams to win.
This is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If
if
the
you're
lower
really
level
gonna-
teams can win games against the best teams in the country, then those best teams in the country are not playing quality college basketball, and I don't like that.
Yeah. Do you think the quality of college basketball has improved in the expansion era of the tournament?
No.
Because it has not. It has gone down.
You think it's gone down? The entirety of college basketball or tournament experience generally?
No, the entirety of college basketball. The quality of play.
Since they expanded to 68?
From 64, or just expanding it in general?
Just expanded it in general.
So you're going to kick it back to like the NIT days? I would love to hear that argument. We really ought to push this on.
Well, you know what? We do have a lot of college
That is
basketball season left, and so we'll be
just
able to
preposterous.
revisit this.
Buck is just wrong in every argument, every time.
Well, moving on, we're going to go to another basketball story, an NBA basketball story, and it's a much talked about story. It's the LA Lakers. Are they back on track? Do they have a chance at making the playoffs? And just what do you make of the team in general? I'm going to let Buck start this one, seeing as he is our NBA guru.
Do you want the long version or the short version?
You know what? Give us a short version and then
No.
elaborate periodically.
No, that's the short
expanding.
version. Absolutely not. They're not back on track.
Well,
We're looking at a 4-game sample in which you got a 5-point win over a 16-31 Hornets team, and you're looking at a loss to the worst team in the Western Conference. Yeah, Kobe has showed me something over the past few games. I'll admit that. It's been impressive how he's been able to take that quarterback role. But if you think that Kobe Bryant, the second it goes remotely south, is going to continue to stand back and pass to Earl Clark and pass to Meta and pass to Pau Gasol, you're crazy. It's just not going to continue to happen. And I really think for the Lakers to be most successful, Steve Nash has got to be in the role that Kobe Bryant is in right now.
Well, I do understand what you're saying, and you say we only have a 4-game sample, but the Lakers are only 4 games back from the 8th playoff spot, and they're only 30 games. There's 36 games left in the season. I mean, don't you think that's enough time to kind of make up some ground, turn the record around a little bit?
I'm not saying that they absolutely will not make the playoffs. If they do, they'll be a non-factor, and I don't think they'll
I'll
make
tell
the
you what the
playoffs.
Lakers need to do. Although it'll be controversial. They need to have Kobe Bryant handling the ball. Steve
Okay.
Nash, that's the way their offense runs better. Their offense runs better time in and time out when Kobe is the one running the offense. And that marginalizes Steve Nash, and Steve Nash, I mean, that makes the trade look worse, but it's what needs to be done if they're going to make the playoffs.
I said that when they acquired Steve Nash, that Kobe is not – he's too big of an ego to ever turn over the offense
Well, you know what?
to even a guy he respects as much as Steve Nash.
I'm not
But
going to
that's
pin it on Nash or Kobe. I'm pinning this on Dwight Howard. I think Dwight Howard is the problem. He's hurt again. He's not a team player. He doesn't know what he wants to do. He's been heralded as the best center in the league for like the last 5 years, and he just hasn't lived up to it. He's not a superstar player. He's not acting like it. Superstar players come through in the clutch. They take their team to finals. They don't lose like this. Superstar players do not lose like this. And he is just not up to scratch, and I'm tired of him being who he is. There are no centers in the NBA anymore that mean anything to the league, and that's a problem. It's just a problem in general, and Dwight Howard is just making it worse. He's an idiot. He doesn't know what to say, and he's disgruntled. And you know what? I understand if you're disgruntled during the season, when you're not winning, but he's just disgruntled with the situation in general. He should be working towards it with his team. If anything, he should be mad about the losing, not mad about his situation and what's going on. I have a problem with Dwight Howard.
If the Lakers have a brain, they'll trade him so that they don't end up on the short stick this offseason. I don't think Dwight Howard looks like a guy who's signing a long-term contract at the end of the season. I just don't. I mean, the guy's bitched constantly about shots, about the scheme, about help on defense, because it's one of the worst defensive teams in basketball, and he's supposed to be anchoring that. Instead, he's deflecting to his teammates.
Defensive player of the year. Come on.
If I am the Los Angeles Lakers, I'm on the phone right now trying whatever I can to get him off of my roster.
Well, the thing is, the Lakers always seem to come out and find a way to make their team get back on top. And time again, they make the moves that get them back to the top of the NBA. They have always managed to acquire superstar players, and they've been able to stay on top of the league. I mean, you just go down, they never had a guy that's not a top-notch NBA Hall of Famer.
And they do have a top-notch NBA Hall of Famer.
That's what I'm saying. But if all right, go ahead.
The defense is still atrocious. The Pau Gasol situation is still a ticking time bomb of bad chemistry waiting to explode in their faces. Dwight Howard is still hurt, and Mike D'Antoni, we haven't even talked about him. He's still the head coach of this basketball team, and he doesn't even remotely fit this roster. I just don't see it working out this year.
Which is what my point is the fact that Kobe's on his way out, Nash is obviously on his way out. We don't know what's going on with Dwight Howard, but we both think that he should be on his way out of LA. And Pau Gasol his situation is not good. So basically, they don't have the pieces right now, and they've somehow always managed to get another piece. And the question is, what do the Lakers do from here? And I think that remains to be seen. But that would be something that we need to look for in the future, because they always seem to come through. And while it does seem unlikely, the Lakers just do it.
If Dwight Howard leaves, when they don't get anything in return for him, they are looking at a very sorry state of that franchise. With Pau Gasol at the end of his career, Nash will be on his way out, Metta World Peace is winding down, and there's just not a whole lot there. They would be on their hands and knees. I think they will be anyway, but they'll be on their hands and knees in 2014 begging LeBron James to
and you know what? LeBron James might be tempted.
Just might.
Oh, well, that wouldn't be something un-Laker-like to do. Okay, moving on to another NBA story of this week. It's the big story. It's the Memphis Grizzlies story and the trading of Rudy Gay. So we have a Pistons fan here who has a unique point of view because he knows his Pistons, and not very many other people do, just because they're not very good.
Well, in a trade that unfortunately renders all three teams basically irrelevant, big picture. The Pistons are probably the most irrelevant, so probably going to come back to them.
But they seem to have gotten the best trade grades so far.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they got nice value, if that's what you're saying. They dumped the ghost of Tayshaun Prince on Memphis, and Austin Day wasn't going anywhere, and Calderon's a nice player. But three of the best players that were already on that roster are Brandon Knight, Rodney Stuckey, and Will Bynum, and they're all essentially shoot-first point guards. It's not a roster fit at all. I feel so sorry that Andre Drummond and Greg Monroe have to waste quality minutes on a team this dysfunctional. I can't believe Joe Dumars even has a GM job in the NBA anymore, but that's beside the point. The real development here, and the most important part of this, is Memphis, and it's just kind of sad to me. Last week, they dumped Maurice Spates, Josh Selby, Wayne Ellington, and a first-round pick for John Lure, who's currently toiling in the D-League, and that was a money deal. And this week, you get Ed Davis, and you get Tayshaun Prince, and you get Austin Day, and you lose a wing. So guys, I mean, there were NBA guys taking to Twitter after this saying, wow, like Gay is on that level right below the LeBrons and the Kevin Durant's and Dwayne Wade's. And I don't know that I agree with that, but there's so much respect for this guy, and you just did not get equal.
Well, I mean, Gay did bring Memphis up from being a pretty bad squad, and he is only 26 years old, but he's just not getting the production that you need out of a max deal. His PER is terrible, and I believe in PER. I think that it's a great stat.
You know I believe in PER.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great stat, and it's not always perfect, but at least gives you a very good indication of what that player is providing. And, I mean, you say that Tayshaun Prince is a ghost of what he used to be, but, I mean, he's shooting 43.5% from the three-point line. He's scoring, I mean, his scoring is going to go up when he gets to Memphis, and his PER is just slightly lower than what Gay's was.
Let me make you a couple of guarantees. his scoring will not go up when he gets to Memphis. It's going to go down. He's leaned on a lot on a Pistons team that doesn't have a lot on the wing. And second of all, with that stroke, 43.5% could be 38 by next week. He's always been an erratic shooter. It's a skill that he has, but he's a streaky guy. And you have to take that into account. He's not going to be 43% all the way through the playoffs.
But he will play defense.
He will, but he's the ghost of the Tayshaun Prince that would shut down the likes of Tracy McGrady and players like that back in his early years. He doesn't move that way anymore. He's not I would say he's not even an upper echelon defender anymore. He's above average. He's a nice piece. But he lost Rudy Gay, and I understand that front court is still loaded, but they're gonna feel the effect of that.
Well, Tayshaun Prince is an old body, but speaking of that, there are some other old bodies that have gotten a recent boost from some alleged PED use. Ray Lewis, Alex Rodriguez, and then the mighty Alabama Crimson Tide. So,
Yeah.
Jack, how do you feel about this PED use?
I'm not really surprised by it. I mean, A-Rod is A-Rod. And I guess the one that maybe surprised me the most is the Alabama. I don't know. I think as more facts come out, I'm less likely to think that that's going to be anything serious. I would be shocked if they went so far as to strip them of the 2011 title. Shocked. I don't think much is going to come of it, personally.
Well, I guess what my greater problem with the whole thing is that these players, performance-enhancing drugs have been a big issue now for a long time, at least the last decade. It's been in major news, and these guys knowingly go and use performance-enhancing drugs to get back. It's like they don't have any regard for the consequences. It's more of a problem with the culture than it is with...
Well, it's a forgiving culture.
It is a forgiving culture.
If A-Rod goes and hits 350 this season, then it would be forgiven.
Well, I don't think that he's going to hit 350.
No,
I think he's more likely to hit 150.
Nobody thinks that at this point. But, I mean, I'm just saying that if you play well, people tend to forgive what you've been doing.
And what about Ray Lewis, Buck? He's had to deal with this during his Super Bowl week when he's been leading the NFL in tackles throughout the playoffs, when he was noticeably like a liability in the beginning of the regular season, and then he got hurt, and now all of a sudden he's like a superstar again. What's going on?
Yeah, every major athlete, it seems like, is conditioning us to believe that there's got to be something fishy up. You can't have a good story anymore without something marring it, and that's been especially true in recent days. I just like to think about a torn triceps muscle and what that means for every single movement you make with the upper half of your body. It's just, it's unbelievable no matter what he was putting into his system, that he came back as quickly as he did from an injury that unbelievably painful. But
hey, he does have that little robotic like mechanism that holds his elbow in place.
He does. That seems like a weapon.
Yeah.
I would love to play with that thing.
Yeah, I'm not even sure they should allow that at this level.
I can't decide which of those three groups I hate most. I mean, you got A-Rod, you've got the Alabama football team, and you've got Ray Lewis. There's a lot of polarizing characters.
Yeah, I can't say that I'm too happy with the way the Super Bowl shook out this year. Not a big Ravens fan or a 49ers fan.
There were so many great quarterbacks in the playoffs, and they did not make it to.
Speaking of quarterbacks, there is a quarterback in the news that is on one of the Super Bowl teams that is not a starter for either team, and that's Alex Smith. And he's been in trade rumors during this week with none other than Darrelle Revis from the Jets, who the Jets have been their best player. The Jets have been dangling out there, saying that he is on the trading block. I mean, this just adds to the Jets' problems. It adds to their dysfunction. I don't even know what to make of the fact that the Jets would possibly make that trade in desperation for a quarterback.
Let me start out by saying that I am a big Alex Smith guy. He's a system guy. He can be really good for you in the right situation. Then let me go on to say that Darrelle Revis is an effing baller, and he can be great in any and every situation. This makes no sense on any level.
And the Jets got noticeably worse when he went out this year.
They absolutely did. And
Well,
if you put Darrelle Revis on that 49ers defense, that is a force to be reckoned with.
The number one problem with the Jets this year was their quarterback. In my opinion.
No
yeah,
argument
but when you put your quarterback in bad situations when you're not playing defense, and it makes it a whole lot harder for him to play.
True.
Look at Alex Smith. Alex Smith had a great defense behind him.
Continue to have what they have right now? I mean,
No, I'm just saying Alex Smith is a system quarterback, and the Jets just don't have the system for him. Not just on offense, but defense. He's going to be in terrible field position, and he's not going to have anyone to throw it to most of the time if he was on the Jets. And then add to the fact that if he traded Darrelle Revis to the 49ers, it'd be basically handing the 49ers a dynasty. Their defense would be unparalleled. It would be phenomenal. You have Colin Kaepernick who's coming into his own, and they have a good running game. Like, what more do you want from a team? Like, especially with a team with a chance to win a Super Bowl. And you know how it is when you win a Super Bowl. That team has unbelievable confidence jump from there. That's why we only had 6 quarterbacks win the Super Bowl in the last 10 years. Because they repeat, because they know how. It's a big deal.
I as stupid as the Jets have been, I am tending towards this is kind of the phenomenon where every single player on both rosters of the Super Bowl participants gets some type of press in the week leading up. And I'm not sure anything will come of this. But if it's true, that would just be a very, very, very poor forecast for the New York Jets' future.
All right, so like Evan said, it is Super Bowl week, and we have a little Super Bowl debut of our own here at Yup Sports. We each are debuting our first articles, on around noon on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. We think this would be a good time to start, and so each of us is going to give a little preview about what we have this week. So, Buck, why don't you start?
I'm going to try, keyword try, to tackle Ray Lewis. That's a big and a tough topic lately. There's a lot going on there, not only with the PEDs, but the kind of Man of God show that he puts on. And then the biggest story, I wish, was his play on the football field, because he's been absolutely unbelievable, and his leadership has been just incredible in getting that Ravens team to the Super Bowl. But there's enough going on there that I think it warrants kind of a sorting out of everything that has come up the past couple of weeks. So that's what I'm going to try to do.
I am going to try to, in a 2-part article series, I'm going to try to determine which college football team has produced the best players of all time. And so I'll be looking at that from a little bit of a unique angle. And I think that it's going to turn out okay. And hopefully after reading the first installment on the day of the Super Bowl, you will come back and read the second part. And now, Jack Shea, he has a great topic, and it's going to be a great article, but now is not the time to debut it because he wants to keep it a secret. Jack's page on the site it's had a little traffic so far, and he's trying to ramp that up. So he's keeping the secret, and trust me, folks, he will not disappoint. So, on to our Super Bowl predictions to close our show. Jack, would you like to start with that, seeing as your articles staying close to the chest?
Yes, it will really be groundbreaking. That's just all I'll say about it.
Well, yes.
And for the Super Bowl, I don't know. I went with the gut last week and did pretty well. I'm going to go with the gut again. Ravens 28-24.
You know I got to roll with the Ravens again.
He's been rolling with them all playoffs.
Been rolling with them all playoffs. They've been my pick for a while now. I don't like Ray Lewis necessarily, but I think that that team certainly responds to his style of leadership. And watching O.J. Brigance hand out that trophy and the way Flacco has gone from basically an average NFL quarterback to outplaying the league's best the last couple of weeks on the road. It just feels like it this year to me, and that's about all the rationalization I can offer for it, because I do believe in a little something called regression to the mean, which Flacco is due for at some point. But I got to roll with my Ravens one more time.
Do you have a score for us? I know you typically don't give scores,
You know
but it's
won't give
Super Bowl Sunday. You have
I
to give a
can't give you
score.
a score.
It's a tiebreaker because if Jack wins, then he wins it because he's going to get a closer score.
That's
than
true.
you.
If you don't give a score,
Then you're basically coming in second.
I'll give you 31-20.
All right, fair enough. And now it's my turn. And I'm going the opposite way of both of you guys. I'm picking the 49ers. I think that defense is too good. I think Colin Kaepernick and the options they provide with Frank Gore and the Michael James is going to be too much for the Ravens defense. And here's another problem. I think a lot about Super Bowl week is the way that you handle the weeks leading up to it, about how you practice, about how you deal with the media. And while I think that Ray Lewis is fit to take hold of those reins and be the Ravens spokesperson, Ed Reed is not so happy about that. That's why he's kind of mouthing off a little bit to kind of get a little bit of tension back for himself. So I don't like the kind of locker room chemistry that's going on there, and I also don't like the fact that the game is indoors and the Ravens spent a practice earlier this week outdoors when it was very, very windy. Why would you ever waste a practice outdoors where the throws are not going to be on target and where you're going to have different from your game style and surface and waste a day of practice on it? I think it's a stupid move by John Harbaugh, and I think that Jim Harbaugh is going to outcoach him in this game. And that's why I've got the 49ers 27-20.
well, I just can't wait to see Jake be 0-3.
That would be just unbelievable if we could get you.
It would be unbelievable because I'm normally just so good.
That's what he thinks.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's all that we've got for you here today at Yup Sports. I'm Jack Shea. I'm not Jack Shea. I'm Jake Urich. This is Jack Shea and Evan Anderson, and that's all from us here on Basement Banter at Yup Sports.